Pecha Kucha 296, rereading Frank Miller's Dark Knight 2. It's officially called The Dark Knight Strikes Again. Compared to the first one, which is called The Dark Knight Returns, I routinely confuse which book is which. So this is the second Frank Miller book I'm going to be talking about, written 15 years later in 2004-ish. But I feel that it's not even fair for me to just complain about how bad it is. I just want to make direct comparison between the two books. The first thing worth noticing, which I failed to point out frequently, is Klaus Janson, the fill-in artist who helps with the first book, is very good. He's not in the second book. That might be part of the problem. The foreword Frank Miller does as the character Vicky Vale. If this book was written in words like this would be a much better book. Most of the problems with this book, well, not entirely about the art, it's mostly the art. He uses a lot of the same tropes. This is the story of Batman in the future, coming back from retirement to save a dystopian future that's been taken over by bad guys. He has a lot of cynical viewpoints represented by talking heads, people in the media, former celebrities. I counted the amount of pages I read before the layout of this book made me question the quality of the book, and I got to page 24 before I thought, this is an awful lot of real estate he's wasting not drawing an awful lot of informative information. It's a lot of redundant imagery. You compare this to one of the first spreads of the previous book, and he's doing a lot of talking head stuff here and a lot of exposition, but it's a very tight narrative, and he's making excellent use of his real estate. There's also more background arts of the background. The second book really has... Miller just doesn't want to draw backgrounds. This is Catgirl escaping from a top secret lab. You can tell because you're told, not because you're shown. And in comic books and in any other story, you should always show, not tell. Just the dynamism of the previous book, which this is again. Also, Lynn Varley is the colorist of both books. I think possibly Frank Miller's wife or ex-wife, I don't know. Far more muted, far more reserved, far more keeping with the sensibility of what you expect in a comic book. And I know taste accounts for some of this, but the way Superman is cynically handled in the second book as a pawn of the establishment, but more than that, visually he just looks less impressive. This is the second book. This is him in the first book. Look how he fills the fucking space. The sun comes to Gotham when Clark Kent brings it with him. Even when he's operating on a battlefield somewhere incognito, hiding from the general public, he's still big, blue, and beautiful, right? And then there's how Frank Miller depicts women in the second book, which is overtly sexual. And there's a lot of bad language. If you're 12, I think you think the second book is fantastic. If you're not, you don't. This is a scene where Batman is confronting Lex Luthor in the second book, and you might be wondering why they're fighting in a big white room. They're not. Frank Miller, for the 15 billionth time in this book, just didn't draw a background, because I was serious when I said he's not interested in doing that. The only difference is Lynn Varley didn't colour in the white space with something. She's doing far too much work. But not all of the book is awful. Frank Miller hasn't lost his eye. It's more like his hand is gone. He can still create strong images born of shapes and stuff. It's just don't ask him to do detail or women. The way he depicts Wonder Woman in this book, she's not in a lot of it, but she seems to have this inability to stand straight without looking like there's something wrong with her back. But more than that, this page got me so incensed. Like, what the fuck is this blank face bullshit she's doing? I was like, can I draw better without trying? Can I sit down for 10 minutes and do a layout and get more of some kind of story out of the same layout, just like with better body language and a little bit more attention to detail? And, you tell me, but that's that. Frank Miller's second book. Not the best point in his life. Let's leave that alone. It's 20 years old. It's not relevant anymore. But yeah, I did my Bison on Tuesday, and having read Frank Miller's book, I was not particularly inspired, so I just thought, and I kind of drew it without thinking, which I think Miller did a lot of that in that book. And then I was like, he's not got eyes, let's just focus on the grin, because that's kind of sinister. And yeah, since every Tuesday it's just an excuse to draw M. Bison doing something, sinister is fine. Also, I've been working on my, I think was this issue 5 of my 10-issue manga book. The closer I get to issue 10, the more I second guess everything I've done. One of the many reasons I redrafted the first draft, and I'm now in the second draft, is because I got to about issue 7, and I felt like there's a lot of stuff I meant to do that I haven't really managed to fit in. And as I'm going through this draft as well, I'm conscious of the juxtaposition between all of the words, the things I need to tell the viewer, and not blocking out the bloody images, because the whole point of a comic book is there's something nice to look at. So Smiley Saturday as well. I'm at the final page of my fucking Goku drip smiley show. None of the pages are finished, but most of the color by numbers and lettering and stuff is done. So I'm running out of stuff I can do without having to tighten up, clean up, and actually finish this thing. So going forward, I can't even begin to predict how much more time I will spend on this before I can actually put it somewhere and say, look, it's it's probably funny, but it's definitely finished. And that's that. So I imagine I'll be looking at the Spawn comic book I have next week, which kind of ties into the fact that Todd McFarlane drew and wrote it. He worked with Frank Miller. I've been talking about Frank Miller stuff, while I wait for my local library to stop assuming I have COVID, so I can go get a copy of Frankenstein to read. But that's the end of Pecha Kucha 296, and I will see you next time.